that it is doing that, in fact. And let me just check to make sure that that came on. Okay. Um, Hopefully we are recording now. I just want to double, triple check on that. Um, that we are in fact recording. Yes, I see it. Okay, good. Thank you, Sarah. Um, my second computer here seems to be wanting to, oh, there we go. Okay. Um, okay, yeah, I see it up in the corner now. Okay, good. Same format as I've done for the last couple of reviews here, where I'm going to put questions up on the screen and pull up a poll then where you get to vote for your answers. And looks like we have about 17 people here, although I'm signed in twice, so we might be a little less than that, but oops, I'm not sure what's going on there. Um, Let me get back to my screen here. Here we go. Um, so I'll be keeping an eye on the chat area, though, just to see if you have any questions on what I'm covering. And let me just kind of move things around in my screen here so that I'm able to uh, do something. I'm not sure if I'm drawing on the screen or somebody else is, but uh, could be either. So anyway, let's try. Uh-oh, that was Nathan. Well, okay, we won't flunk you. We won't flunk you this time, but that's fine. Anyway, let's see if I can pull up a question here. And okay, oops. There we go. Which type of intelligence reflects reasoning, memory, and information processing capabilities? And I'm trying to pull up, here we go. Oh, geez, I just gave you the answer, didn't I? Okay, well, the idea was going to be that you, for those of you who hadn't joined us before, that you could choose your answer below. Okay, go ahead and choose number 2, everybody, because as you can see, that is the correct answer. So just seeing, yeah, that was easy. Okay, and according to me, 13 out of 16 voted, which I will end the poll and share the results so that you can see that, in fact, everybody chose number 2. And um, I'm just curious. Okay, you can move the poll out of the way. And um, if you remember back in chapter 9, I mentioned that David Cattell said that there were 2 different kinds of intelligence. The one being crystallized, that's our sort of hard facts and stuff, and fluid is reasoning, memory, ability to learn new things, and so that was one of the first attempts, I think, at trying to explain intelligence. So the correct answer for this one, which type of intelligence, is reasoning, memory, and information processing capabilities. Best answer is number 2, fluid. So let me try to relaunch a poll here. You can kind of move it out of your way while I come up with the question here. And let's see if I can do it without revealing the answer too soon this time. So let me see if I can push the right button here. Yeah. There we go. So the question is, A woman senses from her husband's nonverbal posture and facial signals whether he is interested, bored, or pretending to be interested in what they're doing. She detects his feelings accurately, thus demonstrating a high level of what kind of intelligence? What's the type of intelligence that she's showing here? Is it spatial, interpersonal, or body kinesthetic? Which is the type of intelligence that she is demonstrating here? And it looks like, we have 11 out of 17 have voted so far. And I know the people who are watching this as a recording can't see the poll, so I'm going to read off the results when I end the poll here, and I'm going to do that right now. And check the board. Let me share the results with you. And as you can see, 67% said number 2. And that's interpersonal intelligence. And if we check the board, survey says, there we go. Interpersonal intelligence is the correct answer here. And this was part of that, who was it? Howard Gardner. I think I said that he described intelligence as having, well, maybe we have 8 different types of intelligences. And I think on the board I put 4 of them or so: musical, interpersonal. I did put that body kinesthetic or physical kind of intelligence too. And I got a question from somebody asking, do you have to know all 8 of Gardner's intelligences? No, you do not. Um, that would be for a graduate class or something like that. But just be familiar with the fact that he thought we had a lot of different types of intelligences. And, people are good at some and maybe not so good at others. Okay, let's take a look at another question. And again, I'm keeping an eye on the chat area, just as a way of seeing if anybody does have questions that I can answer about any particular item here. For some reason, it keeps blocking my screen. I need to kind of play with that a little bit. Looks like somebody else joined us. Thank you for coming in. Okay, let me pull up another question. I forget if this is probably still from chapter 9. And there you go. If you knew that someone has a deviation IQ score of 125, what would you, what could you think if you knew that someone had a deviation IQ score of 125? You can kind of get rid of that deviation thing, but Uh, let me just launch the poll again so you can register your answers. Um, what could you think if you knew somebody had an IQ score of 125? So go ahead and enter your answers. And as I'm looking, I see 8 out of 17 have, we're up to 10 out of 17, looks like. Put in a response. And yeah. What could you think if you knew that someone has a deviation IQ score of 125? And we're up to 13 out of 17 have put in an answer. Again, those of you on watching this as a recording could just write down your answer, or just sort of keep it in your mind. I'm going to end the poll here and share the results so that you can see the orange line there. 86% or 12 people voted for number 3. That she has above average intelligence. And as you can see, that is the correct answer. And in fact, I'll give you a little, you can use the chat area to answer this, but what score is the average intelligence? Oh my goodness, there's some quick fingers out there. Holy crow. Wow, you guys are on the ball there. Not only did you have to think of that, but type it in. Well, yeah, 100 is the average intelligence score, and if somebody is above 100, we would probably say they're above the average, and if they're below 100, they're below average. And if you remember, I said that whenever we measure something, we get that sort of bell-shaped curve with a lot of people in the middle, and there's going to be some people at the extremes on either end, way above or way below. So let me sort of relaunch a poll here. You can, again, move it out of the way so that you can see the question here. And our next question. This one I don't think we covered in class, but many colleges require students to take a placement test in math. HEC does this to see whether they have mastered essential knowledge before they enroll in an advanced course. Such a test would likely be an aptitude test, an achievement test, a culture fair test, or an intelligence test. What's the best answer here for this question? And it looks like a few people have put in their answers so far. This one's going to get a few people, sort of challenging question, I think. And go ahead and choose your answer. And it looks like we have 14 out of 17 have answered already. So I'm going to end the poll and describe it for the people who are watching this as a recording. That number 1 aptitude test got 5 votes, and in second, well, actually number 2, 3, and 4 got each got three votes. So I'm going to reveal the answer here. The answer actually is an achievement test. An achievement test shows how much you've learned, how much knowledge you have. An aptitude test shows how much potential you have to learn. Kind of, what is that thing that people take to get into college? These SATs. And anybody know what the middle letter, the A, stands for? What's that A stand for? A little challenging here. Actually, it's not. Here, let me type it in, and I'll say it in a second here. Oops, wait a sec. That middle A stands for aptitude, scholastic aptitude test. Looks like I advanced our question already. And let's see if I can take it backwards or not. Probably not. Okay. Anyway, got to find a way to go backwards here. Let's see if that'll do it. And of course, it's not going to do it. Okay. I'm not sure how to get back to my previous question. So, anyway, the alternatives on that last question were an aptitude. yeah, an aptitude test, an achievement test, that measures how much you've learned. Culture fair test, I think we already, we covered in class, was a test that's fair at all cultures. When's a good day to have your bumper shoot? I think I uh, challenged you with as a question. And so the correct answer for that last one was it measures how much they've achieved, and that's an achievement test. Okay, let's try this one here. Let me relaunch a poll. Um, so you can vote for your favorite answer here. Okay, there we go. Okay, according to drive theory, people enjoy being in a state of physiological arousal. According to drive theory, a state of tension is unpleasant. We try to reduce that tension. 3, people are motivated primarily by curiosity, or experiencing a physical need is rewarding. What's the best answer for this one? We're into chapter 10 um, with this question here. So drive theory. Um, what's the best uh, best answer here? And we got a little bit of jockeying around a little bit, and it looks like 9 out of 17 have answered so far, and we're kind of split all over the place. Looks like, and so I'll give it just a couple more seconds here, and okay, one to pull. We're up to 13 out of 17. So let me share the results with you. And according to the results, 5 people picked number 2. That, according to drive theory, a state of tension is unpleasant, and we try to reduce that tension. And if we look at the answers, that is, in fact, the correct answer. And boy, this sounds fairly similar to something I covered in chapter 6. I think I covered it. Something about reinforcement, but what flavor of reinforcement would we be talking about if we're in an unpleasant state of affairs that we uh, try to reduce that? Somebody type in what flavor of reinforcement. Ah, yeah, Don's got the quick fingers there. Yeah. We're listening to Justin Bieber, can't stand it, want to poke our eardrums out. And so we raise our hand. That's negative reinforcement. And drive theory says when we're in a sort of a negative, when we're hungry, when we're cold, when we're thirsty, we're not enjoying that state of tension, and we'll go get something to drink or eat or whatever in order to reduce that state of tension. So um, the correct answer here, number 2, state of tension is unpleasant, and we try to reduce that tension. Okay, let me launch a new poll here for us. And like I said, you can move it out of your way if you need to read your screen, because that's what I'm doing right now. And let me pull up the next question here. Maslow. The order of needs on Maslow's hierarchy of needs is, and this is according to the book. I know that I kind of um, rearrange them a little bit, but we'd be looking from the bottom up of his pyramid, the order of needs from the bottom up. So what item here shows them best from the bottom up? Looks like we have a couple of people have answered. We're up to about 4 now. It's a bit of a long one to to respond to, but which one of these items shows the correct order according to his hierarchy? It looks like 7 out of 16 of you have put in an answer. And I just snuck in a sip of coffee here. Although that caramel macchiato really sounds good. Okay. Looks like we're up to 8 out of 16. This one's taking people a little bit longer. So I'm going to actually end it and let you see how people voted here. And as you can see, um, uh, the largest number of people went for number 3. And if we look at it, that is, in fact, the correct answer. Physiological needs first, then safety, then love and belongingness, esteem, and then self-actualization. I kind of like Maslow's ideas, so you probably should expect to know some things about Maslow uh, for the exam. And again, I still am keeping an eye on the chat area to make sure I answer anybody's questions if they have a question. So let me let you vote again. Give you a new poll to look at on your screen there. Actually get it out of the way. And let me pull up another question. And next question, probably from number 10, chapter 10 again. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Theorists who advocate a set point explanation of body weight are most likely to agree that what? The set point is not related to genetics. The weight set point stems from eating habits copied from peers. Weight set points are relatively stable, or weight set points vary dramatically from month to month. So the experts who say that we have a weight set point are most likely to agree. Notice I have that in bold. And let's see how people are voting so far. Looks like 6 out of 16 have cast a vote here. And let's see, we're up to, well, we're still at 6 out of 16. I'll say a couple of things about this in just a few minutes, this weight set point idea. In fact, I can, while you're still recording, I can say, if you remember, I mentioned our hypothalamus tries to keep a steady weight, no matter what weight you're at. Your hypothalamus kind of works hard to keep that balance, or that sort of homeostasis, sort of that set weight. So if you're very thin, your hypothalamus is probably working to keep you there. If you're a little heavier, your hypothalamus is trying to do that as well. And that's why it's so hard to lose weight, is because you're battling against that hypothalamus and weight set point. Let me share the results with you. And as you can see, 64% of you voted for number 3. And if we check the board, we can see that number 3 is actually the correct answer. So congratulations to those of you who chose number 3. And yeah, that's the weight set point. Let me relaunch the poll here so you can vote again on the next item. And let me see if I can advance our to a next question. What do we got here? Ooh. This is still in chapter 10, taking a look at the theory that says we become aware of our physical reaction first and then later feel the emotion is known as what? James Lang, Cannon-Bard, adaptation level, two-factor. Which one of those four choices um, is the theory that says we become aware of our physical reaction first and then later feel an emotion? Yeah, it looks like 3 out of 16 of you have registered up to about 5 out of 16 so far. And checking the chat area, nobody has posed any new questions, so that's something I wanted to check. Let me see how we're doing. 9 out of 16 have registered a response so far. And so I think I'm going to end our poll and see how we voted. And oops, let me share the results with you. As you can see, 78% of you went for number one, James Lang theory, which is in fact the correct answer. William James and Carl Lang, Cannon and Bard said that um, uh, we react physically and we feel the emotion at the same time, or we can even feel the emotion without a physical reaction. Remember how he had Cannon had his grad students swallow a balloon and push a button when he was hungry, and he was pushing a button at all times, even when his tummy wasn't grumbling and stuff like that. So um, that's the difference between those two, James Lang and Cannon-Bard. You probably want to know a little bit about them come exam time as well. Oh, before I forget about it, I should have mentioned it in many of the classes, but just to remind you, you can use your 3x5, one 3x5 card, inches, handwritten on both sides, just like you've been able to use in the past. So just wanted to remind you about that. Okay, I just gave you a new poll. Let's see if I can give you a new question. And here we go. Ooh, which is correct? Emotions and reason are opposites. This is just kind of a fun one. Actually, A is 1, B is 2, and you can kind of um, enter your response as you wish here. This is sort of a relax your brain for a few minutes as we kind of take a look at this. And yeah, it looks like 7 people have voted so far. Yeah, we're up to 9. Interesting, the last 2 votes seem to have evened things out a little bit. So let me just share this with you just for fun. And as you can see from the poll, 60% went for true, that emotions and reason are opposites, and about 40% went for false. And the correct answer probably is false. They're not necessarily opposites. I think they can work together in some ways. So that was just supposed to be a fun kind of thing. Oops, hit the wrong button here. Let's try this again. There we go. And you should have a fresh poll in front of you now. And let's see if I can get a fresh question. Oh, This one, again, is just a fun one. Polygraph tests can detect lies. Is that a true or a false one? Yeah, people are answering a little quicker on this one, I think. This is kind of an interesting question in some ways. I think for many of you, I brought in my biofeedback meter. I know I did for you students in New York, and I think I missed it for my Monday, Wednesday classes. We never got around to that, but let me show you the results here. Kind of interesting. Half of you said, well, 62% actually said true. Polygraph tests can detect lies. And the correct answer actually is false. It doesn't correct lies. It, it doesn't detect lies. It detects body reaction. And usually our body reacts when we're lying, but there are probably some people who can lie without their body showing anything, any kind of reaction at all. Person who's a, what do they call that? A compulsive liar? Probably they don't, their body doesn't react at all when they're telling a lie. In fact, they probably convince themselves that they're telling the truth. So that was just for fun. I got another question up there. Let me give you a new poll here. And blank is a concept held about a person or a group of people that is based on superficial, irrelevant characteristics. What is this? Is it sexism, androgyny, stereotype, or discrimination? That is a concept held about a person or a group of people based on superficial, irrelevant characteristics. Should be an S after characteristic, but I think you still knew what I meant there. And I think this is getting into chapter 11, actually. Yeah, it looks like, boy, we got 8 out of 16, about 50% of you have put in something. Yeah, we're moving up a little bit here. And again, I'm just taking a quick glance at our chat area. Nothing, nothing new there that I can tell. Oops. Okay. And let me show you the poll, show you where people voted here. And seemed uh, pretty clear in a lot of ways. But as you can see, most people voted for number 3, stereotype, which is, in fact, the correct answer. Stereotype is a concept held about a person, sort of that, what did I call that? A representativeness bias, if you remember that from one of our previous chapters. It's based on superficial characteristics. Discrimination is when we treat people differently based on what group they belong to. That's discrimination. And it can probably go, be a positive thing or a negative thing. Maybe some of you are familiar with a teacher's pet kind of thing. That's a form of discrimination where, somebody in your class is sort of given a free ride, let's say, treated more nicely than other people. That's discrimination in a positive way, but we mostly see it in a negative way where people are treated poorly based on some sort of characteristic. But stereotype is, um, judging somebody based on irrelevant characteristics. Stephen Hawking would be an example probably of a stereotype where you see his physical disability and it's not relevant or was not relevant to how his brain was functioning. So, okay, it's a little bit about stereotype. Let me give you a new poll. Here we go. And give you a new question too. Ooh, gender differences in cognitive and social skills suggest which of the following? Men score higher in verbal ability than women. Women score higher in math ability than men. Men are more responsive to the emotional tone of speech. Or women score higher in verbal abilities than men. Which is the best response to that one? And the poll is open for your responses here. And it looks like 8 out of 17 have put in an answer. And we're up to 9 out of 17. I'll let it go just a little bit more here. Again, if you're doing this on the recording, you can write down your answer or just kind of keep it in mind. Somebody just answered number 5, which I think is impossible. So anyway, let me stop the poll and share it with you so that you can see the results there. And as you can see, most people went for the number 4, that women score higher in verbal abilities than men, which is, in fact, the correct answer. There's been some newer research suggesting that we're closer than we used to think in terms of our verbal abilities. I did see an interesting piece of research where they measured how much men talk. And a lot of times we think, well, men, we're kind of like Clint Eastwood, go ahead, make my day, and we don't say much else. But they tape recorded men. And they actually found out men talk a lot. Women probably use a wider variety of words. Men have a little bit limited vocabulary, but it was interesting to them to find out that men actually do say a lot of words to each other, and can be pretty chatty, but probably use a different level of vocabulary than women. And I don't think I want to go there in terms of what type of vocabulary a lot of men probably use. So, okay, let's see if we can get another question here, probably from chapter 11 on sex and sexuality. Here's one. Going to use all 5 possible answers here. Which of the following is the shortest stage of the sexual response cycle, as described by, who was that, Masters and Johnson? Which one is the shortest stage? Is it excitement, plateau, orgasm, resolution, or refractory period? Which one is the shortest in time? Yeah, it looks like, well, we have 9 out of 17 have put in some sort of response already. Yeah, up to about 10 now. So a couple of you still thinking about it. Wait just a few more seconds here. I think I may have mentioned this for a lot of you, but Chapter 10, Chapter 11. Chapter 10 was on motivation and emotions. Chapter 11 on sex and sexuality. I think most of the questions come from those 2 chapters. And a lot of them, certainly from Chapter 11, which was boring, sex and stuff, and nobody wants to hear about that stuff. So let me end the poll. We have 12 people voted, it looks like, and I'm going to share the results with you. And you can see most people chose that the I'm sorry, the shortest stage of the sexual response cycle is orgasm, which is, in fact, the correct answer. Doesn't seem fair, but it's sort of the way life is, I guess. If you remember the other stages there, excitement, that was initial arousal, plateau, highest arousal, orgasm, resolution, return to normal, and that refractory period was in men only. It's sort of a period where a man can't begin sexual activity again for a little bit of time. So let me give you a fresh poll, and I hope none of the kiddies are listening while we're covering the stuff about sex, but put your headphones on. Okay. Ooh, boy. Which of the following STDs or STIs, it should be, sexually transmitted infections, causes warts to grow on the genitalia and may increase the risk of health complications such as cancer? Which of the following STIs are we talking about there? Gonorrhea, herpes, human papillomavirus, HIV, human, yeah, human, boy, oh boy, HIV. Now I'm blocking on what the initials stand for. And chlamydia. Which one is correct answer here? Yeah, it looks like we have about 7 out of 17. I'm sitting here trying to think HIV. We use it so often that we've lost the meaning of um, what that actually stands for. I mean, AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, and I'm just plain old blocking on human immunodeficiency. Thank you, Alita. Um, should have known you would have that one at your disposal there. Yeah, human immunodeficiency virus. Um, and that's the initial infection, which I guess after your T cell count drops below a certain level, we say you've converted to AIDS. Um, but let's get back to the question here, and it looks like 11 out of 17 have voted, so I'm going to reveal the results here, share it to you, and as you can see, most people went for number 3, human papillomavirus, and that is in fact the correct answer. There is I guess a vaccine now. I think is a Gardasil that it's a series of 3, or used to be a series of 3 injections that um, females can get in order to reduce your chances of contracting the human papillomavirus. And I remember when my daughter was young, we discussed with her getting that, and some people think that it then encourages people to go have sex, which I hope is not the case. It's not a way of it's not a protection against other sexually transmitted infections, but seems to be effective against human papillomavirus. So, okay, let me relaunch the polling and see how we're doing for another question here. And next question. Oh, which is correct? Sexual orientation can be changed. True or false? What do you think on this one? This one's sort of a opinion question in some ways. And if you remember sexual orientation, my definition was your choice of romantic partner. Can that be changed? And I'm seeing, oh boy, we've got 12 out of 17 have put in an answer so far. And I'll let it go about 10 more seconds or so and see, we're up to 13. Somebody just broke the tie. And yeah, let me reveal to you what people sort of considered here. Or you can see that 54% said true and 46% said false. And in the past, there's something called, oh, I want to call it reparation therapy, if that's the correct terminology, where people are sent to therapy in order to change their choice of romantic partner. And it's actually been outlawed in some states to do this on children younger than 14 years of age. And part of the reason is because it's felt that sexual orientation, true, false, maybe, about changing it. I don't think the research is very good here yet. I think some people may change their sexual orientation based on trauma, based on assault, based on experience. But I also think that trying to change the sexual orientation of people against their will is like trying to change me to a right-hander if I'm left-handed. I don't think it's going to work very well. And for that reason, it's some of this reparation therapy has been outlawed in certain states. And like I said in class, I don't think we fully know how we arrive at our sexual orientation. And I used the terminology, it just is. And just like my left-handedness or your right-handedness, if you're right-handed, it just is. We don't know how you got there. And, why isn't the world left-handed? There's probably some sort of reason for that. But the fact that even in a world of right-handers, we find left-handers, to me is kind of significant that, um, well, not everybody's going to be the same flavor when it comes to handedness orientation or sexual orientation. Okay, let me give you a new way of answering there. And let's see if I have another question here, and I think I do. Oh, this is about stereotypes. All stereotypes are inaccurate. True or false? All stereotypes are inaccurate. Yeah, and this one's just sort of a fun one to kind of put your brain on rest for just a few seconds here. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. Looks like 9 out of, now we're up to 10 out of 16. So I'm going to stop the polling and show you the answer. And as you can see, 55% said false, that all stereotypes are inaccurate, meaning some of them are true. And actually, the correct answer is, yeah, it's false. Some stereotypes are accurate, but we still ought to be careful about doing that because I think we can misjudge people and stereotype them in a way that's not fair to them, and try to get to know people as an individual. Um, I'm a college professor. I'm a Psychologist, does that make me a certain kind of person? Is there a stereotype about that? And I kind of, I actually try not to be the stereotype of college professor or um, psychologist. I just try to break the mold a little bit. So, okay, let's give you another new poll here. And I think we go to chapter 12. Yes. And the question is, a parenting style that encourages children to be independent but still places limits on their behavior is called what? I don't know that I worded it exactly this way, but I think hopefully you can get the correct answer here. Is it authoritarian, authoritative, neglectful, or indulgent? Which parenting style encourages children to be independent but still places limits on their behavior? Yeah, it looks like 8 out of 16 of you have put in a response there. Yeah, we're up to 11 now. Yeah, I'll let it go for a few more seconds. Actually, as I recall, 2 of them I didn't even put on the board or anything. So, it's almost like a 50-50 here. And let me pull up our results here so you can see that everybody went for number 2, which is, in fact, the correct answer. Authoritarian is lots of rules, punishment is used, and being independent is not necessarily encouraged. And authoritative, though, I think the idea is to get the child to see the reason uh, for the rules and to sort of embrace them on their own. That's the idea in authoritative. Authoritarian just kind of forces the rules on the child. Okay, let's see if we can give you another poll. And oops, poll's in progress here, but let's see if I can give you another question. That's what I'm trying to do. Oops. Oh, and I hit the button twice, which gave you the answer already. And this is something that I mentioned in class about moral development. Yeah, thank you, those of you who answered number 2. As compared with men, and who was it? Kohlberg, Larry Kohlberg, Lawrence Kohlberg studied men and developed his Heinz dilemma. But Carol Gilligan was his grad student who said, hey, men and women are different, and women are more likely to include compassion for people as an important part in their moral decisions. And I think I said in class to some of you, our healthcare policies, I think, would be very, very different had they been designed with women as part of the policymaking body. And maybe there were some present, but I think they probably got outvoted by uh, the numbers crunchers or something like that. So, okay, let me see what we got next here. And see if I can advance this without, oh, actually, looks like I'm out of questions. So it's question time from you guys. Let me maximize my my chat area here. And what questions do you have? Um, what did I say aptitude was? Aptitude is your ability to learn something, or your ability yeah. Uh, let's say we had a mechanics aptitude test. That would test your aptitude to be a mechanic. I for, I don't know if anybody in the audience is a military vet, but there's something called the ASVAB, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, and it tests whether we should turn you into an auto mechanic, a radar technician. It tests your aptitude to learn certain things. And I think I told you guys, my aptitude for electricity and electronics stinks. I would score very low on a electricity aptitude test because I just don't understand it. Whereas if we gave me a psychology aptitude test, I probably should do pretty well on it. So aptitude is your ability to learn something. Your achievement test shows how much you learned. In fact, what is it? The PSSA, Pennsylvania State Standardized Aptitude Test, I believe they are, PSSAs. I'm sorry, Pennsylvania State Standard Achievement Test. The PSSAs, they're an achievement test to see how much students have learned. And then if your students aren't learning in your school district, they cut your funding, which to me seems like the stupidest idea I've ever heard. But who needs it more than places where students aren't learning very well? So it just seems to be a oxymoron or something like that. Anyway, other questions from you guys. Again, I'm taking a look. Which types of intelligence will be on the exam? Well, you want to be familiar with David Cattell, mentioning that what is that, fluid and crystallized, and I think I said crystallized is your hard facts. Remember the diamond on a ring is a crystal, and fluid intelligence kind of, it's movable. Fluid intelligence, it's your ability to do new things and solve problems and stuff like that. And you want to be in general sort of familiar with that Howard Gardner and what he might have said about intelligence as well. I will not, I'll repeat this again, I will not ask you to name his 8 different types of intelligence. I think that's a little bit more than I want you guys to know about intelligence. But I did kind of mention that I mentioned 4 out of his 8, so that might be important. I think I also spent a little time on IQ, and I showed you how we figure that out, or what IQ represents. It represents how much somebody knows compared to their age. If they know more than their age, more than people their age know, they're probably going to have an intelligence or an IQ greater than 100. So those are important concepts, I think, from Chapter 9 about that intelligence stuff. Other questions from you guys as I'm checking the chat area here and seeing what other questions people might be considering or thinking about. Seems quiet out there. Seeing a thank you. I'm going to keep doing this. I'll do this for the final as well. And you're welcome. I mean, it's something I don't have to do, but I kind of do it just because people seem to benefit from it, and uh, I kind of like doing it. Actually, I have to admit. So, if there are no further questions, um, again, I do hope this has been helpful, and I am hoping that you have a happy day, happy night, um, and I will. Always very helpful. Yeah, that'll get you some extra credit there, Kristen. Just kidding. But thank you for the compliment. I want this to be a good class, and I'll do things that I hopefully. Oh boy, and she's not sitting next to you when she's saying that. I have a feeling there will be a price to pay for that when Kristen catches up to you, Sabrina. So anyway, have a great night. I'm going to stop the recording now and post the recording. So have a good one.